This tiny Utah town is a gateway to some of the most amazing and best kept secrets in the entire American Southwest. Anyone can get to them, and I'm going to show you how in this video. The thing is though, I'm here with my #1 adventure partner, my girlfriend, and I plan on proposing to her at one of these spots. Now, I just gotta figure out which one is the best. Oh, and hope that she says yes. This is Mexican Hat, Utah. Hi there and welcome to Dan Treks. I'm Dan, travel lover, videographer, and unfortunately for all of you wonderful people, the Dan in Dan Treks. Utah is one of my absolute favorite states to travel through, and I'm definitely not the only person who feels that way these days. Full of red rock canyons, massive sandstone arches, high peaks, and salt flats, just to name a few, there's a lot for the average trekker to see and do in Utah. Which brings me to one of the most popular things in Utah, its national parks. Utah's mighty 5 national parks are one of its biggest attractions. And for good reason too, but they can also get pretty crowded. You won't have quite the same problem here in southeastern Utah though. Getting here is easy, if you don't mind a 5-hour car ride that is. And if you're coming from Buffalo, New York, like me, a 4-hour plane ride on top of that. We flew into Phoenix, Arizona, rented a car, and made the drive up to Mexican Hat, booking one of the yurts at the local San Juan Inn. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous though. I mean, proposing. This was a new experience for me, and I wanted to get it right on the first try. It's not really one of those things you plan on doing twice. The town of Mexican Hat is small, with a handful of restaurants, a couple motels, and a gas station. It's fairly remote, but not that hard to get to if you don't mind a little driving. And well worth your time, for all the amazing things to do and see around it. So, about that name then. It's because of this rock right here, which I guess resembles an upside down sombrero. Upside down Mexican Hat just wouldn't have sounded quite the same. Which brings me to the first on my list of attractions, as well as potential proposal spots. Found about a mile heading north out of town, you're free to drive up to and even hike to the top of the Hat Rock. And if you're a cheapskate like me, there's even a handful of free campsites around it too. If you do plan on hiking it, be warned, the trail is minimal at best. Takes you along an extremely steep ledge, and the final part is almost all scrambling, including some spots that are not very sturdy. The route on the All Trails app was a lifesaver for me on this one, so I included a link to it in the description below. But I wasn't planning on proposing by it though. Look, we're only just getting started here. There's a lot more to see. Now, I'm not a liar, I promise you. That being said though, spot #2 isn't exactly some hidden gem. Since you're going to be so close by, and because it's also pretty famous, it's definitely worth checking out while you're here. This is probably the place you think of when the Wild West comes to mind, which is probably why they filmed so many westerns here. And a lot of other movies too.
There's gotta be a phone or a gas station around here somewhere, honey.
Spot #2 is Monument Valley. Only about 20 minutes from Mexican Hat, it really is just down the road. Don't expect peace and solitude here though, this place gets pretty popular. It costs $20 to enter the park, but that first view, you just can't beat it. You can hike the Wildcat Trail down to the valley floor, or take the drive through the valley itself. Any other hikes or excursions you might want to do is going to require you to hire a Navajo guide though. I'm pretty shy, and that's not changing anytime soon. That's probably why they voted me changed the least in the place that matters most in life, high school. Proposing in front of a crowd was never a part of my plan. One of the reasons I love it out here so much is that there's usually not that many other people around. So, as great as Monument Valley is, it's not where I was popping the question. Lucky for us though, there's a place just like it up the road, without the costs, the restrictions, and usually crowds of other people. Spot number 3 is only 15 minutes north of Mexican Hat. The Valley of the Gods, where you're gonna feel like you're in Monument Valley all over again. Minus the crowds, the fees, and the restrictions. You're free to hike where you please, while still respecting the land, of course. They say that the best things in life aren't free, but I disagree. Many of the places that I'm showing you in this video are in fact free, or at least are pretty cheap to check out. If you're looking for more information on Valley of the Gods, or any of the places in this video, feel free to click the link in the description below for my complete written guide to Mexican Hat, Utah, including how to get there, the best times to visit, where to stay, eat, hike, and even more. The Valley of the Gods is navigated by a 17-mile-long dirt road, winding past gigantic sandstone towers, through jaw-dropping canyons, and all free to explore as you want. Camping here is free too in the pull-offs along the side of the road, but be warned, there's no bathrooms or facilities of any kind out here. If camping isn't really your thing, there's a bed and breakfast near the western entrance of the park, but rooms there generally go pretty quick. I'd barely scratched the surface out here though, and while the Valley of the Gods is amazing, you probably guessed by now this isn't where I was gonna propose. So why did I fly all the way from Buffalo, New York to Utah just to propose? Well, like I mentioned, this is one of my absolute favorite places on earth. I accidentally stumbled on this town on the first solo trip I ever took, and I fell in love with it from day one. Right, proposing. Our mutual love of travel is one of the things that brought us together, and we actually came here on our first trip we took as a couple. Which brings me to the next spot. You've probably heard of the Horseshoe Bend in Arizona, right? This place might be even better, and it's only 10 minutes away from Mexican Hat. Goosenecks State Park. Carved by the San Juan River over the course of 1,000 years, maybe 1,000,000 years? I have no idea. Maybe I can Google it. Carved out by the San Juan River, the canyons in Gooseneck State Park are massive, exposing over 300 million years worth of rock layers. It only costs $5 to get into, and if you need a place to stay for the night, there's a handful of campsites right along the rim of the canyon. The view here at Goosenecks is pretty amazing, but besides the scenery, there really isn't that much else to do. Which is why it was time to move on to the next spot, which is conveniently located all the way at the top of these gigantic cliffs. The Moki Dugway, which is, as you probably guessed, a 3-mile-long, semi-treacherous dirt road built into the side of a cliff. No, that wasn't your first guess? Probably your second one then. It's really not quite as bad as it seems, though I don't know if I'd recommend driving an RV on it. Take it slow and you'll be fine, and there's even some pull-offs along the way to take in the views of the Valley of the Gods down below. As far as roads go, the Moki Dugway is pretty cool, I guess. But it's really just another gateway to all the cool places that are waiting at the top of it. Plus, I was not planning on proposing along the side of the road. Not that there's anything wrong with that. At the very top of the Moki Dugway, you'll notice a dirt road immediately on your left. I had heard that one of the best views in all of Utah was down there, but we'll come back to that later. There was someplace else, completely different from anything we had seen so far, just up ahead, that I wanted to check out first. And that place is our next spot, Natural Bridges National Monument. You may be wondering, what's the difference between a natural bridge and an arch? And if you weren't wondering, well, I'm at least going to try and tell you anyways. A natural bridge is generally formed by water erosion, maybe a river or a stream running underneath it. An arch, on the other hand, is usually formed by wind erosion. Now, there's probably a lot more to it than just that, but I already told you earlier, I'm not a rock expert. It costs $20 to enter the park and see the 3 natural bridges, and you can hike to all of them as well. If you feel like camping, there's also some first come, first serve sites, but they usually go pretty quickly. By the way, natural bridges, like any place that's run by the National Park Service, lets you in with the America the Beautiful annual pass. It costs $80, but it pays for itself after about 3 or so park visits. If you love the national parks as much as I do, I can't recommend getting one enough. If you do end up staying the night, be sure to look up. Natural Bridges is the world's first international dark sky park. Though, to be honest, most of the area around Mexican Hat has crystal clear skies at night. Natural Bridges was the perfect spot to propose at. There was hardly anybody else here, and the scenery was amazing. So naturally, I wasn't going to. It was time to move on to the next place on my list. This was supposed to be special, which I guess is the standard for marriage proposals usually. I mean, I definitely wasn't planning on doing this again. A lot of this area is within Bears Ears National Monument, which is mostly wilderness and home to hundreds of Pueblo ruins. Most are unmarked and pretty hard to find, but if you do, please don't geotag them. One in particular is very well known though, and not that tough to get to either. This next spot is known as the House on Fire. When the mid-morning sun hits the rock just right, it causes the overhang above the ruins to glow, as if they're engulfed in flames. The House on Fire is part of the Mule Canyon Ruins trailhead and is reached by a pretty easy 2-mile round-trip hike just off the side of the highway. When exploring here or any ruins, visit responsibly, including not touching or entering any of the structures. Ancient ruins are cool and everything, I guess, but come on. You knew I wasn't going to propose here. There was just one more spot on my list that I had to check out first. As you probably already guessed, I didn't mention that road at the top of the Moki Dugway for nothing. We circled back and started the 3-mile drive down it to what I had heard was one of the best views in all of Utah. The last spot on my list is Muley Point. From up here, you can see the canyons of Gooseneck State Park, the town of Mexican Hat, and even Monument Valley way off in the distance. It's kind of like a little bit of the entire area all in one. And if you feel like spending the night, camping is completely free up here. And it's worth it to catch a sunrise in the morning. They're amazing. Safe to say, I think I had found it. This was the spot that I asked her to marry me at. And she said no. Okay, just kidding. And she said yes. And thank God for that, because I really don't know what I would have done otherwise. It probably would have ruined this place for me. Whether you're trying to find a place to propose, or just looking for a new vacation or adventure spot, Mexican Hat has a lot to offer, and it's all pretty accessible. If you're driving in an off-roading vehicle and are in peak physical shape, or not to name any names, you're arriving in an economy rental car and aren't exactly an all-star athlete, pretty much all of the things and places I've shown you here are doable. From the views to the hikes to the hidden gems, there's a lot to see and do here that you won't find anywhere else, and that make the tiny town of Mexican Hat, Utah, unlike any other. And if you want any more information on any of the places you just saw in this video, feel free to click the link in the description below.